Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Greater Somerville. I'm KyAnn Anderson. Tonight's topic, development in Union Square. In preparation for the arrival of the new Green Line station in 2017, the Somerville Redevelopment Authority is in search of a master developer to oversee the revitalization of 7 large land parcels located in the heart of Union Square. With many local residents and business owners concerned about how these long-term developments will impact the culture and vibrancy of the gritty square we all know and love, the importance of this selection process becomes quite clear. Tonight, we talk with the Abbey Group, one of the 4 remaining teams vying for this master developer role, to find out their long-term visions for Union Square, should they be selected in May. So please join me in welcoming David Epstein, Bill Caravori, and Leland Cott to the show. Welcome to Greater Somerville.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Wonderful. Great to have you here. So we have a lot to cover tonight. There's a lot in this program, so I want to just get right to it. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your team and how, a little bit about your team history and why you arrived or how you arrived in Somerville.
Okay, well, I think talking a little bit about our history would be helpful to understand how we approach development. My brother and I started the Abbey Group 35 years ago. And in that period of time, we've worked almost exclusively in neighborhoods, mostly in the Boston area. And because of that, we've learned over our history that the most successful developments are developments where the developer and the has good relationship with the neighbors and listens and structures their development so that it fits it in and it is appropriate to the neighborhood where it's going. So we've started out in the Back Bay in Boston, did many historic rehabs, and then more recently, our most significant and probably most pertinent for us in terms of looking at us as a master developer is some significant work that we did in the Fenway. We developed 3 parcels there, in total almost 1.5 million square feet. It was mixed use, commercial, residential, retail. Involved both historic buildings and new buildings. It involved putting new buildings in old neighborhoods, and we think we're good at that. And and we've also, in recent years, been involved in downtown Boston, the revitalization of downtown Boston, again with mixed use, residential, commercial, and retail. So we like to do that. We like to get involved with the neighborhoods. We must have had 40, 50 meetings in the Fenway. We were actually the 4th of 5 developers who attempted to do the former Sears Warehouse Distribution Center, which became Landmark Center, and did it as a historic restoration and really knitted together the old Fenway and the new Fenway and created pretty much a vital connection between the old Fenway and the MBTA T-stop, which is known as the Fenway T-stop, Fenway Green Line. So we're very proud of that work. And through all of that history, we've worked with, recent history, we've worked with Bruner-Cott Associates because we value their sensitivity to the environment, the unique approach they bring to architecture. We don't do anything cookie cutter. Every building is different, and it's appropriate for the neighborhood that it's in. And we also, I should emphasize too, we also make long-term commitments. When we go into an area for development, we look at the long term. We own the buildings, we run them. We've been in the Fenway over 15 years. We've been in downtown Boston over 15 years. But we picked Lee and Bruner-Cott and Associates to be our design partner and our team leader for this because we think their broad range of experience, their awesome architectural skills, and their ability to piece together complicated issues and make them wonderful environments was crucial. So Lee Cott from Bruner-Cott and Associates, maybe you should take over and talk about the rest of the team.
Good, thank you. The relationship that my partner Simeon Bruner and I have with David and Bill and the rest of the Abbey Group is really very special. It's gone on for many years. We sort of know the way each other thinks at this point, and we have created some pretty amazing buildings and amazing environments with the Abbey Group and things that we're extremely proud of. But here in Union Square, we really saw the RFP and took the challenge very seriously and have assembled a team that we think is possibly the best team you really could do for this, assemble for this project. Charles Rose is a local architect who is award-winning. He's going to be with us. He is well known for his very high level of design, and particularly with sustainable architecture. He'll be joining us as well. Arup Associates is an internationally, globally oriented sustainable design firm of engineers with offices in maybe 50 different countries. We're working with them now on a few projects here in Cambridge and elsewhere. And they will be our sustainable environmental designers. They have really sort of pioneered the concept of the eco-district, which, as you will get to talk about, I hope, really sort of underpins a good part of what our concept is for Union Square. Michael van Valkenburg is an architect with offices, a landscape architect with offices in Cambridge and New York. And Michael is extremely well known for his work at the Brooklyn Bridge Park and Harvard Yard and other places that we all know, but particularly concerned with sustainable design and with really creating special kinds of places for people that we think is going to be extremely important here in Union Square. Rick Lowe is an arts consultant recently appointed to the National Council for the Arts, who really understands the way arts come together, arts and culture come together to define community and a sense of place that we see as also being very important. And we want to augment the already terrific work that we have heard is going on here and that we know we can contribute to that. So the consultants that we've assembled are really, we think, quite special, and we'll be able to really develop a synergy amongst our team, and we hope to develop that synergy with the community as well. And this particular team of consultants sort of been handpicked by us to do that.
Okay. Well, that just segues into our next question very nicely. The vision of Union Square. I've asked this question to everybody, but what do you see? What is your vision, or what are you anticipating?
When we think about the vision of Union Square, as big as that sounds, we start by asking ourselves a series of questions. We ask ourselves, what is Union Square now, and what's great about it, and how do we expand on what that is? We ask ourselves, who are the people that, when we try to expand Union Square into these underutilized parcels, what's the best way to do that? And we think the best way to do that is to identify the people that share the same values that Union Square has, and provide what they would want into these parcels. And then finally we ask ourselves, well, what's achievable? So by using that framework to answer the question, going back to what is Union Square and what do we love about it, and what is the essence that we're trying to capture and preserve, well, we see this culturally diverse, economically diverse, thriving neighborhood that has got this great artistic and creative sort of underpinning that makes it this funky, fun place that has got a place for everybody, it seems. And with a thriving nightlife and thriving entrepreneurial spirit with small business. And so that's what we need to preserve. And then with a surrounding residential community that is just really supports this Union Square downtown center. And so that's what we want to tap into and preserve. And in doing that, basically what we want to do is expand that character into these underutilized parcels and bring more opportunity for jobs, more opportunity for housing, and more opportunity for business. So, so the game plan here is, from a jobs point of view, well, stepping back, you say, one of the great things that you can do here is that you have an opportunity as a master developer to have some big ideas. And so, as Lee had mentioned, we've got two sort of underpinning big ideas that we want to overlay onto this sort of this basic premise that we want to tap into this character of Union Square as it is now and as we see it, and as is clearly it's loved. And overlay an arts district and an eco district concept onto these parcels as a way of furthering the future for Union Square. And
I just was going to ask the eco district. You've mentioned a couple
Yeah.
times. I was just wondering if there was some. If you could just elaborate a little bit
well,
on that.
I can
for the
just very
viewers at home.
briefly, and I think Lee can
Oh,
really get into it in detail, but basically an eco district is a systems approach to environmental design and environmental living that focuses on environmental building, and then I don't,
Let me
You
talk
jump
about
in.
what we're proposing. Cities like Seattle and Denver and Los Angeles and Toronto are already doing this, and it's a way of dealing with the approach to this question of carbon neutrality by the year 2030. Is addressing the 2030 building challenge. It's extremely important. As a country, we're about 60% of the way there now. But the kind of, we've really envisioned this Somerville Union Square Eco District at the same level of importance as these other cities that I just mentioned. And the focus there is really not just on buildings, we can talk about that of course, but really on the whole environment, in how the idea of ecology and sustainability just infuses the whole urban design character of a place in terms of transportation and pedestrian activities, as well as building design and outdoor spaces and landscaping and reuse of renewable energy and other kinds of resources. It's something that Ken Greenberg, our urban design consultant, has been working with as well as Arup. And the experience on the team is that this is achievable, but it does take a very special kind of commitment on the part of the design team and development team to really make this happen. It's not just about technology, it's really about an attitude toward development.
Okay. And now with that,
So-
we do seem to have some slides back. So
We do.
if we can just refer back to those slides.
Okay.
If you want to,
Well, keep going.
next slide.
Keep going. Keep going. All right. So this eco district as a concept, and then also overlaying that with and tapping into the values of the community again in an arts district, and using that as a way of informing our approach to these development parcels. And so when you put those two things on together and you say, okay, how do we move forward with the vision for Union Square? We see this as an opportunity to bring business into the square now. And we want the businesses that come into the square to be ones that share the same values as what is Union Square now. And so we see three types of businesses that can come here now. And one is the information technology, the creative economy tenants that are 5 to 25,000 square foot users. They've gotten their first round of financing. They're the kind of people that probably are living in and around Union Square already, or certainly the workers are, and they just don't have a place to go. And they value the kind of life experience that Union Square can give. And so they want to be there. There's just no place for them. We have a building in Cambridge that is a startup incubator space building, 130,000 square foot building that is exactly this. We know how to do this. We've done this, and we can bring that to Union Square. That's one user. Another user that values what Union Square has to offer is the aggregated healthcare business, and that is those are your primary care physicians, your clinical businesses, your specialty surgical day patient and outpatient centers, your chiropractors and dentists, those kinds of businesses that value the T and their connection to the institutional motherships of institutions that are in the Longwood medical area in downtown Boston, but also value the community that is around Union Square, this dense residential neighborhood that is also underserved in this capacity. These people want to be in Union Square now, and we would like to bring them. We have a building in Back Bay, the Back Bay Medical Center, that is just that, same thing. We know how to do this. We've been doing this for years for that industry. And then the third is we see that there's this really amazing entrepreneurial stuff going on in and around Union Square right now, and in and around Somerville at large, that just is kind of desperately looking for space. And so we want to provide space for the business owners that are within Union Square and within the community of Somerville to grow and expand and stay. And so those are the three user groups, and that we think value what Union Square has to offer as it is right now. When you layer that on with this expanding opportunity and this environment, it calls for additional housing to support this, and so this layering of the development approach is what we're after. When you think of there are many ways that this can turn out to be, right? And so when we think it's useful to look at D2 as a microcosm, because we actually see it as a catalyst for what the rest of Union Square can be. And so we have
Next slide.
we have a slide to sort of that helps us.
going.
I think we've talked about that. Yeah. Here we go. That
D2.
that tells us that helps us see
Two right there.
that helps us have the conversation about what
What the vision is.
what the vision could be. So this is really a diagram of ideas, and this would be what we would use to start the conversation and engage the community and arrive at something that we can all agree on. But it does talk about some things that are achievable now. First off, I would say that D2 we see as something that should be taken on immediately. We'd love to have it completed in conjunction with the arrival and the opening of the T-stop. We think in its full form it can exist. There's a need for it now. But when you look here, we see this not as one building, clearly. We see this as several buildings on this site that allows for there to be a mix of uses, but not this monolithic big mass. And we see it as a series of buildings so that there is a breaking up of the space, a better way to organize the space and create open space, community space that is probably one of the most important things that's missing in Union Square right now. And we also show, I mean, when you look at it, you see there the red building. We'd see the red building as being a building, is the commercial building anchored to the T-stop. We see that as possibly, a 300,000 square foot office building, perhaps, as much as that, maybe less. And then we see two residential buildings, perhaps one that provides home ownership and one that's an apartment building. We also show, in the diagram, a real stepping of massings, so that at the street level you get a scale which is much more conducive to the scale that is Union Square of today, but still is able to achieve the potential of the site and the zoning of the site. We also show a green space there that's right up against the center of the square, and we see that as a communal space, an amphitheater, as it were, but an occupiable space for the community. And then you see, and then you overlay this notion of the eco district and the arts district, and how the arts can be brought in through the landscaping and through the architecture. And I don't know. I've been just sort of going and going.
I think you
No,
got it.
it's obvious everyone's very passionate about it. I just want to make sure we get to some questions. I
Sure.
apologize.
Okay.
There's a compiled list of questions, and I don't know. Do you have the final slide that you want to? Do you want to advance the next slide, or
Well, I don't know.
We have-
Frankly,
we have
I think
about-
we'd like to talk about Union Square as much as we could, so I imagine that's probably good.
okay? Is that all right? We've got about 10 minutes.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure that I've compiled the list of questions, and a lot of people are really excited about the interviews, having a chance to talk to you, so I'm really appreciative of you coming in. So these are compiled questions of the CAC meetings as well as community-driven questions, so I'll just get right to it. So it was noted by the CAC that you had assembled a very strong team with many high-profile consultants among them. How can we know as a community that these sought-after team members will adequately be engaged with our community process long-term?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I would start with the developer himself or ourselves, and that is that the Abbey Group has grown, and we've done pretty well. We're a family-owned business, 2 generations at this point in time, and we report only to ourselves. And I would tell you about our experience in the Fenway, 15 years of commitment, downtown Boston, 15 years of commitment, and we're eager to find another place to make that kind of commitment, and we're prepared to do that here. Now, about our architects probably live, offices are 1.2 miles down the road on Prospect Street in Cambridge. I don't know how many years they've been there, but they've seen us through each of these long phases of development that we've done in Boston and in those 2 districts. And as you recognize, at least most of the consultants have offices in Boston, and we're going to hold their feet to the fire, and we're going to make sure that, I mean, it's up to us and up to our lead architect to rein this team in. And
I would even go so far as to say that before we chose them, we asked them that very question and got these commitments from them, that this was certainly going to be our priority, and it needed to be theirs as well before they could really join us.
And I can also say that these are not people that we've just met for the first time. Yeah. These are consultants with whom our office has had long-term relationships, so that we are working with each of these people right now on other projects.
Okay. Charlie Rose is a longtime family friend. He is, so we're very much a relationship builder, as is Lee's friend.
And I will say this too, just to add one more point to that. One more point to that, and that is that these are the faces that you'll see here. We're not going to mail this off to somebody else in the office. We like to get involved in neighborhoods. We like to meet people, and we like to learn from what people have to tell us.
Okay. You reference your work in the Fenway area and how there is always one building that is the attitude building that sets the tone of the development. Where do you see this building located in Union Square, and why?
Well, I think Bill spoke well to that, and I think D2 becomes the critical parcel because it is both the pedestrian link between the T and the heart of Union Square. It sets the tone coming out of the gate, and I think Bill's description of what our intention is with regard to putting all of these components into D2 that welcome the community to be part of the development. We're not building walls, we're building gateways, and it's going to be a 2-way street. People are going to be able to access our site, and we're going to be able to access Union Square. So that's really the linchpin of the success of this.
Okay, so you referenced, will you try to match the existing architectural fabric of Union Square, or will you use more modern styles? How will you see it fitting into the surrounding context to make sure we avoid the vanilla type of developments that we kind of see just because of the sheer magnitude of it?
Well, I would say that we, just as an overarching statement, if you look at our portfolio, we value appropriately contextual but still ambitious architecture, and we see that adds value in the long term, both in terms of to the developments themselves, but also to the community. And without being any more specific, perhaps Lee, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to say about that. I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that first of all, our firm started 42 years ago with large-scale adaptive reuse of existing buildings in New England. So we really do appreciate the existing sort of environment that we have here. That being said, my partner and I have really developed a philosophy of work that our buildings are very much site-specific. They're very much of their place. They are informed by the community. They are not parachuted in, and they are not generic. And so we will look very hard to doing buildings which are not modern, they are contemporary in the fact that they're being built in this century, in this decade, but they will refer to Union Square architecture and Union Square sort of spatiality, if you will.
Okay.
Okay? And
No, no. I just have one more quick
Go on.
question. We've got about 3 minutes left, and I just want to ask this one question to kind of close it up. I apologize.
That's fine.
So much to talk about. So, what would be your one favorite piece of culture about Union Square, and why?
Well, that's not fair.
That's, oh no! Do we want to start somewhere else?
No,
that's okay.
no. I mean, it's not fair for you to require it to be only one.
Oh, got it. Okay. You just had to pick.
But since you're asking it that way, I'll say the thing that I really love, and I am there quite often experiencing, is the great restaurant scene that is in Union Square. Separately, I'm a restaurateur myself, and I'm a co-owner in the Beehive and the Beat Hotel, and what's going on in Union Square is fascinating. It's great, and it sort of just shows this broader entrepreneurial, creative side that is the Union Square that we all love and appreciate. So that's my answer.
How about you?
I hate to be duplicative, but I would say that that's probably the thing that I've experienced most here is the restaurant. In fact, we had one thought. It's just a thought, and that is that wouldn't it be great if we could bring, some culinary school to come to as one of the uses in our buildings, to tap into that that wonderful mix of restaurants and maybe create its own little institute.
Nice. And how about you? Quick response here.
yeah, well, I like it all.
Oh.
It's a particularly wonderful kind of place, but here I'll let my partner speak because he's not here, but he would say that Carlo and his Ducati agency is a
good
definite
answer.
favorite because
Good
Simeon
answer.
Bruner has a number of motorcycles, a number of Ducatis,
Yep.
builds motorcycles, and is a frequent visitor to Union Square
Yeah.
in that regard.
Or the Radiator Place. I like the Radiator Place.
The Radiator
That's why I
Place.
say, hey, it's a little bit of grit, but I love it.
No,
So
well,
anyway.
it's got every style from what.
That's true.
But think of how special all of that is here.
No,
that it's
it
all
is.
in one place like
we
that.
want to try
It's
and keep it here as
spectacular.
much as we can. So I would like to thank our guests representing the Abbey Group team for taking the time to speak with Greater Somerville tonight about their team visions for Union Square. As the Somerville Redevelopment Authority approaches their final decision for master developer next month, I urge all of you to stay engaged with this selection process. With the magnitude of land slated for redevelopment over the next 15 years, Somerville residents mustn't turn a blind eye to this process. We must educate ourselves on the 4 remaining candidates and express those opinions to City Hall to assure the right fit for the Somerville community is selected by the SRA. Best of luck to the Abbey Group team in the weeks ahead. Until next time, thank you to the viewers at home for watching, and as always, stay safe and stay informed. Good night, everyone.